I'm Damon Weaver at the Palm Beach County School Board headquarters. I'm here to see a press conference that would tell us how the stimulus money is going to help our school.
We're going to hear from our Congressman Robert Wexler, who's just returned from Washington. And during the years that I've known Congressman Wexler, he's always been a very vocal advocate of public education.
Art Johnson here, Superintendent of Schools, Palm Beach County. As we all know, the genius of our democracy is public education. That is an important issue that we have always understood here in Palm Beach County, and we sometimes get the kind of support from Washington and from Tallahassee that we need, and sometimes we don't. But this particular year, we can more or less say that the cavalry has arrived, because we were facing a tremendous budgetary shortfall, and had it not been for the efforts of our local Congressman Robert Wexler, as well as the efforts of President Obama and Secretary of Education Duncan, we would not see this type of assistance. Congressman Wexler, you have helped very much to avert what would have otherwise been an extremely difficult situation in Palm Beach, wherein we would have undoubtedly had to lay off personnel, would have had to cut some of the very programs that have allowed Palm Beach County to become the only A-rated urban school district in the state of Florida for 4 consecutive years. We thank you and your colleagues for what you're doing to support public education.
We know that South Florida has been hit particularly hard in terms of our economic crisis. We also know that this economic crisis, combined with the devastating cuts by our state legislature in certain respects, has jeopardized the job that our public school system needs to do. These cuts could not have come at a more inopportune time. With the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, otherwise known as the stimulus package, Congress and President Obama stepped into the breach and essentially provided a lifeline to the education system in Florida. If it were not for the stimulus package, Palm Beach County schools would have been forced to make some terrible cuts in order to cope with a 6% budget cut following the previous year's 2% budget cut. We would have been talking about laying off teachers and staff at a time when unemployment is already too high, cutting back crucial services, ending new construction projects and new initiatives to innovate in education, and ultimately sacrificing the very quality of the education received by the children of hardworking families throughout Palm Beach County. Education is in fact a primary component of the stimulus plan. And President Barack Obama and Secretary of Education, Mr. Duncan, have announced that more than $1.8 billion in recovery funding will now be available to the state of Florida. Still, even with this influx of funding, Palm Beach County administrators are needing to tighten their belts to make it work. Dr. Johnson has rejected any pay raises in order to prevent layoffs in the school system. And if you think about it, at a time when we ought to be paying our teachers more, instead we've got to make significant sacrifices to get through these difficult times. Let me now talk about the specifics. With respect to Palm Beach County schools, the stimulus is funding a range of initiatives. One, the stimulus delivers over $31 million over the next 2 years for Title I schools that serve many economically disadvantaged students. The stimulus provides over $41 million over the next 2 years for special education and disability support services, which includes Palm Beach County's special emphasis on early intervention. The stimulus includes over $58 million in stabilization funding that is preventing the layoffs of teachers and staff members. The stimulus provides over $33 million for this year and for next year for quality school construction bonds.
I'm here with School Board Chairman Bill Graham.
Right.
Why do we need stimulus money?
We need this money because the economy has been bad the last couple years, and the state legislature has not had enough money to do everything for you and your classmates in your schools, and therefore the President of the United States and Congressman Wexler and the folks in Washington are doing the stimulus money to help us out for 2 years.
How will the stimulus money help our school district?
It's going to help us prevent layoffs, and it's going to help our Title I schools and our ESE students and some of your most needy classmates. There will be extra money, and that will replace some of the money that's been cut the last 2 years.
How will the stimulus money help KEC Canal Point Elementary School?
That's a school you're familiar with, isn't it? We think that your school will be able to keep all the teachers. You won't have to lose any of your teachers. That otherwise there might have been some layoffs, and we'll be able to support good programs to help you make A's and be a better school.
What will happen when all the stimulus money runs away?
When all the stimulus money is gone in 2 years, we'll have to be well organized enough to continue your quality education with other sources of funds.
Thanks.
Thank you for being with us. Thank you, sir.
I'm here with Robert Wexler, and he's a congressman. What is stimulus money?
Stimulus money is what is referred to in terms of money from the federal government to the states and the local governments to help create economic activity, to help create jobs for people in their local communities, to help create a better public school system, and that's what we talked about here today at the Palm Beach County School Board, and also to help create alternative energy sources to relieve our dependence on foreign oil, all with the underlying goal of stimulating the economy to help end the recession and putting people back to work.
Where does stimulus money come from?
Taxpayers. It all comes from the taxpayers. It's the taxpayers who in effect are providing the stimulus money through their representatives in Washington who vote to provide it.
Why do we need stimulus money?
We need stimulus money. That's a good question because we're in the midst of the worst recession that America has suffered since the Great Depression. And in order to get the economy moving again, in order to get firms, private and the public sector, to hire people, to lower the unemployment rates, we need to stimulate the creation of jobs as well as the creation of lending programs and so forth to help the banks back in the business of providing the capital people need to expand their businesses.
Did you help get the stimulus money?
You bet. I voted for it, and I've been real supportive of President Obama and his efforts. You bet.
How will the stimulus money help our school?
It's going to prevent teachers from being fired. It's going to prevent staff of the school systems from being laid off, and it's going to allow both the continuation and the creation of some innovative programming for public school students in Palm Beach County.
How will my school change because of this stimulus?
Well, that's a good question. It's not going to change in some good ways, where the teachers, especially the really good ones, are still going to be able to perform their jobs. Otherwise, there would have been some men and women that would have lost their jobs. And a lot of the good programming that happens, particularly some of the special programming for children that need some additional services, those will either be continued or in some cases enhanced, but what we're avoiding is some disastrous cuts to those kinds of things.
I read that this year our school district will be receiving $100 million from the stimulus plan. I also read that this year the bad economy is causing our school district to lose around $150 million this year. That means even with the stimulus money, we are still going to lose around $50 million. What do you think about that?
Well, I think you've done some good research. It is true that the Palm Beach County School Board is losing a lot of money because of a loss in local revenue and state revenue. And the federal stimulus money is lessening the impact of the loss of the other money. And hopefully by the time Palm Beach County winds up applying for special grants on top of the money it's already getting from Washington, we'll be pretty close to being held whole here and not lose much. But your research is good.
Do you think that you can sweet talk your friends in D.C. to get us more stacks?
More what?
Stacks.
Stacks? Well, I certainly can try. I got to hear the argument, so you got to prep me on it. What are stacks?
Stacks is big stacks of money, like bank rolls.
Oh, okay.
What will happen to our schools when the stimulus money runs away?
Well, hopefully the economy will bounce up and people start working again and tax revenue will go up so the Palm Beach County School Board system could be better funded than it is now, and then we can go on and keep improving and keep that A grade.
I'm still trying to get an interview with President Obama. Next time you see him, can you give him a good word for me?
You bet. You're a convincing reporter, that's for sure, and you're a great young man.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I had a great time at the press conference. Before this, I didn't know what that stimulus plan was. I kept on hearing stimulus plan, stimulus plan, stimulus plan. Now I really know what it means, and I hope you do too. I'm Damon Weaver. Now back to the KAC TV News Desk.